will go to roll call. Clint will not be here tonight. I got an email. I'm assuming you did too. Mr. Hoag,
Present.
Mr. Marty,
Present.
Miss Shandell, Miss Rose,
Here.
Mr. Nixon is here. Okay, we also have Miss Darla, the city manager, Mr. Andy Moore, the planner, and Miss Becca Johnson, who makes our lives easier. Yes. If we look at the minutes from February 4th, do we have a motion to approve those minutes? Okay.
Second.
All right, we have a second. All right, and then we need to approve tonight's agenda.
Put on the motion.
Please, yep, sorry. Okay, so let's take, I'll just do a roll call vote for the, approving the minutes from last month. Mr. Hoag,
Yes.
Mr. Marty,
Yes.
Ms. Shandell,
Yes.
Ms. Rose,
Yes.
and Mr. Nixon votes yes. Okay, let's look at our agenda tonight.
Make a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Okay. All right. That's the word I'm looking for. We will take a vote, to do that. What's the word? All opposed would be no. All,
Just say all in favor, say aye.
Chris, aye. All opposed is no. Thank you. So vote for that. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Okay. Okay. And then we will have a moment here for public comments. Those citizens wishing to speak on agenda and non-agenda items will be allowed a minimum or a maximum of 4 minutes each to address their concerns. This is the only time during the meeting that citizens are allowed to address the planning commission. And if you need to, please come up to the podium and state your name and address for the record.
My name is Tracy Beals. I live at 75 Junco Court, just off of Pine Street and that little subdivision right there. One of the agenda items, I was wondering what the city council had in mind for resurfacing their area on Pine Street off of, so Main Street where Wesco, and then you're turning Pine Street, and that little area all the way just past the Wesco is just pothole heaven. It's just really what so I was hoping it's on your agenda in the future to get that resurfaced. That was a concern of my neighborhood, and I'm representing them.
Thank you. Ms. Darla, do you have anything for that?
Yeah, so the city for the 25-26 fiscal year budget, which starts July 1st, that section is going to be resurfaced, completely redone, where our engineers are helping us determine what we need to do to fix all that from Main Street to the White Pine Trail. We are filling the potholes. I know it's a rough spot, but we're doing the best we can right now.
Thank you. Get you some information.
Junco Court. And that part of the road is just asphalt. I mean, there's no reason that couldn't be just ground up, dug up, ground up and and resurfaced, I would think within 1 day for that 2 blocks between Wesco and, and let's say Needle Point.
And
And, you know, that has to be anything major.
right, and I believe Miss Darla was saying in July, they're going to do that. So.
Well, our engineers are looking at it. If what's underneath is junk, if we put a layer of pavement on it, it's going to be junk again. So we do need to fix it correctly, whether it's just a layer of blacktop on top or what's underneath the blacktop as well.
Can I comment on that real quick? I came from a, construction background with asphalt and stuff like that, and sometimes it does take more than just 1 day. It might even stretch out a week or more, depending on what they have to do. So they have to do multiple layers depending on how much they have to remove and fill. So just, like I said, unfortunately, it can't be done necessarily in 1 day.
Thank you, Ms. Shindell and Ms. Darla. Others wishing?
Ask one more thing? Sure. Whenever there's an election, one of you guys, there's no information available. I mean, I looked on, I got a paper down at the Grand Rapids Library and it's for, a women's voters registrar rights. And there's just no way of finding out anything about you guys. Why would that be that you can't post something on a website if you're running for the office?
Are you talking about city council members?
Yeah,
Our city council election is this coming November.
I know, but whenever it is, there's nothing on that you can find out about you guys.
Yeah, and we're city planning. We're not elected officials up here. We're not elected officials up here.
Planning commission members, they're appointed by city council.
Oh, so
These
you're-
people don't run for election.
Oh, okay. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
Well, we don't have the newspaper anymore, so that's kind of a problem. Nothing we can do about that, or city council can do about that. Right, and I'm one of them, I miss that paper like crazy.
All right, is there anyone else? Anyone online, Miss Becca? Okay. Then I will close public comments. We will go on to conflicts of interest and ex parte communication. If there's any member tonight that needs to tell us about that, please speak up. Seeing none, I will close that. We will go to our scheduled public hearings. Who would like to lead that off? Ms. Darla or Mr. Moore?
So if you want, I can give a little bit of background, and then I think the applicant from Vanderhyde has got representation here, and they can probably provide a little more in-depth review of their project. So the application is for site plan review to expand the parking lot located at the dealership that's at 291 North Main. Property is zoned B3, which is highway business. And so I'm sure you're familiar with the site, but it's on the west side of Main Street between Pine Street and 18 Mile. So they're not proposing to add any building space. It's just they're expanding the parking lot to the south. So they've acquired the property to the south. There used to be a house on it that's been removed. And so they're proposing to just expand that parking lot further south, add a couple of lights, and there's some landscaping and stuff proposed. And so the idea, I'm assuming it's not super specific in the application, but I'm assuming it's just for additional display area. And so, with that, I think it would be appropriate to have the applicant's representation or the applicant themselves kind of provide a little more detail in terms of what they want to do and what the space would be used for.
Okay. If applicant or
With Nugent Builders. in Rockford. Vanderhyde Ford has hired us to help them get through this process, but then also to work with the contractors to do the parking lot if we get that approved this evening. But yeah, basically just they're out of space there. They need more parking, so they acquired the property to the south. You know, I believe they're gonna use it for new vehicles and service vehicles. Service departments on that south side, so probably more service than anything. So that's what brings us here tonight. Think we've got a good plan. That was asked, I believe. And we're hoping that we'll be able to get this approved tonight so we can move forward and get them a parking lot so they can get a little more space because they definitely need it there. You have with me as well, I have Paul from Rosine Associates, he's our civil engineer. And then Rob he's the service manager at Vanderhyde Ford. So if you have any questions for any of us three, I guess we're here to answer them.
The only question I had, I talked to Ms. Starla about it. Your lighting. How many lights are you gonna have around the?
On the south end of the parking lot, the new parking lot.
Right.
So two on the very south end of the new parking lot.
The side closest to the doctor's office? Okay, so you are gonna have that lit up with the lights from the remaining.
Lights
Right.
and just add two new poles.
That's what I want to double check on. Okay.
There was some remark on here on the brightness of the light to meet an ordinance.
Not a very big parking lot. So one is not enough, but two is too much. I don't know. But it's just one of those things. You gotta have one or two, but one's not enough. So you gotta have two.
And we're not, you're not gonna do, when I was looking at the plans, is there no, curb cut for this at all? It's just gonna be brought in from the parking lot?
Yeah.
That's what I thought. Okay. Just gonna be meeting from the parking. Okay. Questions?
If I find it. Thing about, somebody has to monitor the, there it is. There's a basin, drainage basin. It looks like it's something that could get plugged up. I'm just wondering who does the monitoring? Is there a plan, a schedule of just?
You're talking for the storm basin itself, like if it starts filling up with water and holding water.
Yeah. It gets plugged up. That was one of the concerns. I just wonder, yeah.
Vanderhyde Ford would have to monitor that, and then if it wasn't draining and it was filling up, then they would have to have somebody, they'd probably just rake it out or something, maybe leaves in the bottom of it or something. That would be the possibility of Vanderhyde Ford.
Any questions? All right.
We talked about, there's, reading through this, Mr. Moore's report states that we need to have curbs installed here. That really has to do with the ordinances within our cities. That's something that Vanderhyde, maybe you can address that, would be willing to do to make sure that we get within the city ordinances for those curbs.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Thank you.
Associates.
we understand that, it's kind of a unique situation as we're expanding an existing special land use, and none of the existing parking has landscaping, but we do understand that it's in the ordinance now. If I could approach and just show you what I'm thinking.
It's just fine.
The thought is we have this landscaped area up front here.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'd like to propose is maybe just doing curb area around this landscaped island out front. Don't want to move into the weeds, but I've designed this whole parking lot so that it'll sheet flow into this green space.
Mm-hmm.
That helps with controlling sediment and water quality. The more green space the water travels over, the better. If I have to do a curb around this basin, I have to make right now it's all at one elevation, so it'll sheet flow into that basin. If I had to do a curb, I'd have to go up and down to get the drain, the water to drain in the curb to low points. So then I'd be concentrating flow at a few points along here. And that wouldn't allow the water to be as effectively filtered through the greens. What we'd like to propose is we have this nice landscaped island out front, curb that along the road frontage, and then leave the remainder of parking lots as it is.
Okay.
Like the landscaping across the front, that looked very nice.
Place for the curbed island, the curbing around that.
Bushes, or what are they?
They're all itemized in our landscaping plan. It's on sheet L101, itemizes each.
It's right here. Awesome. For the plan, so
What page is that? Ordinance
22.
Mr. Moore, can you speak to the, you know more about ordinances within cities? What's the reasoning behind some of these curbed ordinances that the cities have?
Yeah, so they're actually, they're really common. So most of the time we do see a requirement to have a concrete curb around a new parking lot. You know, I think typically it's just to, prevent, it's to help guide stormwater, to help, prevent cars from either driving or, driving onto the grass or pulling onto the grass or using that space. In Cedar Springs zoning ordinance, it says that a raised or rolled concrete curb at least 6 inches in height shall be installed with the construction of all driveways, parking lots, access lanes, and other vehicle maneuvering areas to prevent motor vehicle conflicts with abutting landscape areas, sidewalks, streets, buildings, or adjoining property.
So I feel like if we did have that curb out front blocking, especially where the sidewalk is, that would probably cover that ordinance pretty well. We could leave the side green space open so you guys could have your ability to shed water. And I feel like that's a good compromise.
Cause I feel like they would probably put stop blocks back there for the vehicles. So that way the vehicles don't just back off into the mud, so.
Cause the snow plows hit them and they go every which way, and
Sometimes I forget the state I'm in, yes.
and all the parking here will be done, correct me if I'm wrong, primarily by employees parking. Maintenance.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't gonna be a parking area for the public, so their own employees will be doing most of the parking there, so.
Yeah, I think I'm fine with that curb being added on to there. I mean, it's not in the current plan, it's in your new one, so I think we'd have to add that as an addendum to the motion if we did that. The other concern that was listed in here was a concern, and maybe this is a Vanderhyde type question, is noise ordinance issues in the summer. I understand you guys work in a shop, it's gonna get hot, but it sounds like the residents that are behind there with the air tools have a concern. And we wanna make sure that we can address that now too. Is there,
Haven't gone in any.
all right. Alright. I guess it's a, talking, when do we have those noise complaints? I mean, it's something you might be more aware of than we are. I'm just curious when you're receiving those, or has it been a while?
When the
Yeah, so.
first time this plan was,
Yeah, so when this first came to the city, when the previous city manager, Mike Womack, was here. So as the initial conversations with him, and I think there was the email that he sent back to Vanderhyde that I was included on, and he just listed out some of the things that they would have to do, you know, with preparing a site plan and all this stuff. And one of the items that he had mentioned in that list, that some of those, you know, air ratchets or whatever they are would just make a lot of noise because those doors are open. So, I don't know that, so if that's addressed just through having quieter tools and the door stays open, I guess that doesn't matter. I think the more important thing is that the noise issue is concerned, not whether or not the door is open or closed. I mean, obviously we can't have it be 100 degrees in there with employees working in there because that's not going to be a safe space. But the noise issue was the main concern that was brought up, and that was probably a year and a half ago when I first learned about it. Because I mean, this has been a bit of time in the making.
almost 2 years
Yeah.
as manager, so
Yeah,
it's been
probably
longer.
more than 2 years, yeah. Yep.
Was it more than one person? I mean, or was it several? I don't know if you know the answer to that. All right.
I'm not sure how many
Yeah,
different
I don't know if,
ones.
I'm looking at Google Earth, looking at the houses behind there, just how close they are, just saying. All right.
That
You have
is,
one person with sensitive hearing and there was the one person didn't like it or what, you know, and I get it.
Yeah, for a couple of people that just had older equipment that was louder and they're not using it anymore.
Their tools are loud. I mean,
And that's-
I'm a gear monkey myself and I know sure I annoy my neighbors when I do my brakes and the like, so.
I could actually take the mufflers off the air guns and
Oh. All right.
they also have a pretty good blocker behind the building with the trees and stuff back there. And I think that was one thing Mike talked about was if you have to put some more shrubs up or some type of trees and just we'll just keep that landscape going back there. But yeah, it hasn't seemed to pop up in a while. Vanderhyde was really quick and on that when that popped up, so.
And I don't think we're here to manage ordinances anyways. And when it comes to the sound ordinance, I just hope that if that somebody does crap up, that you guys would be good stewards of the citizen to our community. Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm fine with this. Would be make some amendments. I know the concern was the lights at the property edge was the brightness of the lights. So maybe that's a brightness issue with those lights that were installed. And then maybe the curb issue too. So I think maybe with those two amendments, I'm happy to approve. I don't know about the rest of you.
So with respect to the lights, it looked like the brightness was a little high at that southern property line. It's probably something that could be solved just by angling the lights in a slightly different, just up a little bit probably to get that away from the southern property line. And there's a row of trees there. I mean, if you've been to the site on the south, there's kind of a row of pretty tall trees, so it's not a huge issue. But that is what the ordinance requires. And then we weren't sure on the height of the light poles that are being proposed, but the ordinance does limit those to 20 feet. So with LEDs now, you can dial them in pretty good. So I think this is a simple thing that could also be addressed with a condition of approval.
Okay.
All right. Any other comments, questions? Okay.
I gotta say, I'm just glad Vanderhyde is there. Cause I was here when that was an abandoned building. It was just trashed and empty and run down and so thank you Vanderhyde for stepping in and making it a great place for Cedar Springs.
We won't leave you up there anymore. I think you can sit. All right, so think we're ready to make a motion here. Oh, wait. Okay. Thank you. So I will open public comments on the scheduled new parking lot here for Vanderhyde, for anybody in here or online. Just
I'm here also because I live directly right on the other side of the White Pine Trail. I really appreciate you addressing the light situation and the noise because that does make a difference for us. The other thing I'd like you guys to consider is if you can do any greenery or maybe tall trees or something, just to keep that space real green. If you're taking anything down, if you will put that back up, just as another block or barricade so we can enjoy the nice greenery with that White Pine Trail. Thank you very much.
the others from inside. Anybody online? Okay, then we will close the public comments. And now we will possibly move forward.
Mention, you'll see at your spots tonight, there's a new report from Williams and Works. The one that was in your packet, the motion was only approving the site plan. This one is a motion to approve the site plan and the special land use. You do need to approve both pieces if you so choose.
Yes.
And then further, if you are going to do that, we should walk through the conditions, because I think those are gonna have to get revised slightly based on the conversation tonight. So do you wanna walk through that really quick, the motion and the condition? So, the motion is just, I mean, when you're ready, if you're ready, you can just read that, but it basically just approves both the site plan and the special land use, as Darla said. And incorporates the findings of our staff report. And then for the condition, there were 6 that were proposed. The first 3 are really the conditions that we recommend for everything, which is build the site in accordance with the approved plans and pay their application fees and those filed requirements of the city engineer and others. More importantly, for this conversation, so 4, 5, and 6, 4 shall submit revised plans indicating that curbs will be installed around the expanded parking area as required by the zoning ordinance. So that one I think would be modified slightly, and I don't know if you just want to say that they would submit a revised plan showing, curb. And I didn't see what Paul had proposed, but it was just along the eastern side of the property.
Along the
Okay.
road front.
So that one we'll have to modify a little bit, and so we could just say curbs would be installed around the required by the zoning ordinance. Number 5, light pole height shall not exceed 20 feet and illumination levels shall not exceed 1 foot candle at any property line. Again, I think on the southern property line, it's like 1.2. Very minor adjustment that I think they would have to make. Then the third one, all work shall be conducted within the building and the doors shall remain closed when they are not in active use. That one, you could either just delete it in its entirety, or if you wanted to address noise in some other way, I guess you could. That too, I'm not exactly sure how to phrase it at this point, but and then of course, if you wanted to make any other additional landscaping recommendations or requirements, we could add that. Well, I think that would pretty much cover everything that was talked about, and those are really the issues that we had highlighted in our staff report. They were fairly minor, comments. Everything else I thought were fine.
Number 6, my thought is all work shall be conducted within the building and all noise should fall within noise ordinance standards. To me, that addresses it, right? If it's louder than it should be, then they know they have to take care of it. I understand you guys don't want to pay for air conditioning in there, but if it's that's what everybody's living on the backside. I mean, that's Not to be callous, but that's a you problem that needs to be resolved. Yeah. I'll go ahead and, make the motion if you guys.
Maintenance of of the stormwater facilities, or is that something that you'd be?
Are there already ordinances within that that means that says those have to be maintained? I mean, I don't wanna create a rule that's already a rule.
No, I mean, I would assume that everything on that site would be their responsibility to maintain, because it's their stuff, it's their improvement, but it was just something that was mentioned, so I just wanted to bring it up.
We already maintained the other parking lots, so I'm assuming they're gonna maintain that one, so.
Cause if that bottles up, that's just their parking lot flooding, which creates an issue for them, correct?
Exactly.
Yeah, we don't. Just don't want that.
Did you wanna make the?
Sure, I'll make the,
Okay.
I'm gonna use the motion that, Mr. Moore had that we, made up changes to. I'll move to approve the site plan and special land use for Vanderhyde Ford, last revised December 27th, 2024. Planning Commission finds based on Williams and Work staff report dated February 25, 2025. That the proposed site plan and special land use meetings all applicable standards of the city, Cedar Springs zoning ordinance, including but not limited to standards related to parking, light, applicable dimensional requirements of site plan review criteria specified in section 32-69, special land use review standards of 32-693I, and other applicable provisions. The site plan and the special land use approval is subject to the following conditions. One, the applicant shall obtain and provide the city with the copies of applicable permits obtained for the federal, state, and county agencies having jurisdiction. The site shall be constructed in strict conformance with those approved plans, including but not limited to the parking lot and stormwater management facilities, subject to the requirement and conditions set forth herein. The applicant shall meet all requirements of the city engineer and the others deemed necessary by the city. The applicant shall submit a revised plan that indicates that the curbs will be installed on the easternmost side of the expanded parking lot as required by the zoning ordinance. Light poles shall not exceed 20 feet in height, and illumination levels shall not exceed 1 foot candles on any property line. And all work conducted within the building must be conducted within the building, and noise should be within noise ordinance standards.
I'll support that motion.
So, we, have a motion on the table. All approved, please say with aye. All opposed, say no. So, all approved? Aye. All opposed? All right, so we will approve the special land use for Vanderhyde. Okay. What's that?
Both of them were in the same motion, so it's all good.
Alrighty, moving on to other business, the master plan. Like to walk us through that.
I will do that. So you should have a chapter on implementation in front of you. So this is kind of the last part of the plan. So following this meeting tonight, we will sort of assemble the entire document cover to cover for your comprehensive review at the next meeting. Chapter is 4 is basically you take all of the data that we've done and all the results of the survey that we completed, and we look at what was written for the goals and objectives, and taking all that information, we sort of formulate it into a list of things to do that will actually implement and fulfill what the plan is recommending, right? So it's nice to have goals, but if you don't do anything to actually effectuate them, they're just words on paper. And so think of it as a sort of an action list of things that actively do in order to kind of bring the plan to life. Some of these are more work than others. And so we'll just kind of walk through these one at a time. The first one is talks about encouraging additional housing options. So we've talked in previous meetings about housing affordability and availability being an issue, not just in Cedar Springs, but all over the place. And so this really recommends a series of steps that the Planning Commission can take to evaluate its zoning ordinance to see if to ensure that new developments are sort of in line with the existing character of neighborhoods, promoting small incremental growth and adopting flexible zoning policies. So, sometimes that looks like, small scale conversions from a one family unit to a two family unit, or maybe we'll look at accessory dwellings or other small changes that the city can make to enable additional incremental growth. This isn't something where we want to take a huge step and make a giant policy change all over the city, but what are some things that we can do on a sort of small scale basis to sort of allow the city some flexibility and allow property owners some flexibility. Similarly, we also have something in here where we write to amend the zoning ordinance to more easily permit mixed use development and housing above retail in the downtown. So again, look at floor area minimums, look at parking requirements downtown, and see what we can do to kind of something that everyone has to do, but again, look at steps that we can do to enable the kind of development that we want to see and to do what we can to increase supply. Downtown Cedar Springs, so we have some suggestions here for zoning ordinance amendments with specific respect to downtown, like reducing off-street parking requirements, permitting smaller housing units, adding design standards to ensure that buildings are designed to sort of facilitate and fulfill that kind of main street feel that it already has. So we have a great historic downtown development pattern already. We want to continue that, and we want to make sure that new development follows the same kind of architectural style. We have some transparency on the ground floor. The buildings are built right up to the street, and really continue that pattern. We've been fortunate so far in that the developments that we've seen downtown have largely, followed that same type of pattern. We have next one is industrial development recruitment. So this is something that the city has been doing for a while. We have some industrial property that is currently unused, and so the city should be proactively marketing that to potential developers. That's something that the city's been actively doing for a number of years now, and so this is more of a continuation of that current practice. But I think it's important to write that into the zoning ordinances or into the master plan as something that the city needs to continue working on. Along the same lines, the 425 area with Solon Township is also something that's been in place for a long time. You've had a couple of joint meetings now with the Township Planning Commission to kind of restart those conversations and to make sure that joint planning is happening there. So this is to, again, continue working in that area as much as you can, staying consistent with the plan. We also have some language in here that suggests that the city should work to reduce the number of curb cuts along that corridor. So one of the issues with those, highly traveled roadways is that you have a whole bunch of curb cuts all along the road, and that introduces a lot of safety concerns. So closing those when we can, requiring cross-access easements when we can, when stuff gets developed or redeveloped out there, are things that the city can do to help make that a safer place to walk, a safer place for motorists, a safer place for everybody, really. The development of additional non-motorized infrastructure. So we talked a little bit about this when we looked at the future land use map, and we added some language about making sure that we're adding sidewalk connections to the trail from the city's neighborhoods, making sure that your parks and recreation plan is up to date, which enables you to apply for grants. Looking at the sidewalk network and specifically kind of prioritize filling in gaps. So we often see in cities like this, we'll have sidewalks on this block, and then we won't have sidewalks, and we'll have sidewalks again, or we'll have this property, we'll have a sidewalk, and then we'll have no sidewalk for 100 feet, and we'll have sidewalks again. Just kind of making a priority to fill in gaps whenever we can to allow for a more complete network for sidewalks and trails. Zoning and code enforcement. So we have a few suggestions here. Encourage responsible property maintenance and fostering neighborhood pride through a home stewardship program. Improving public awareness and engagement by regularly hosting informational meetings and providing ongoing updates on efforts to help residents understand the regulations. And then create annual or semi-annual citywide cleanup day where people can get rid of all their stuff. A lot of communities do this where they will just work with plumbers or some other group to get a bunch of dumpsters out on a property. Like where I live, they have, not only do they do just general junk, but they also have specific days for electronics or for, you know, TVs and stuff there, so they're not just throwing those in the trash or other hazardous materials. There's a bunch of different things that we can do to sort of help people with their spring cleanup activities. It could be a once or twice a year thing. And that's something I think that also helps. And with a lot of this stuff, a lot of it is with this is more of a softer approach. We're thinking about, sometimes people, they don't know what they don't know. So sometimes it's, hey, these are the standards. This is what we want you to do. This is how we need to keep our city clean and keep our properties clean. And here's how we're going to help you get there. So a lot of it is not heavy-handed, like we need to go around and write more tickets. Although maybe sometimes you do, but it's more about educating, kind of helping people make that decision for themselves. And then the last one is community and communication. So again, making sure that the city is active on social media, actively keeping its residents informed of what's going on, connect with local businesses, community groups, institutions, anybody else that we can to recruit people to serve on the planning commission or the DDA or wherever else. One of the questions that we added on the survey asked specifically, like, would you be willing to serve on a city board or commission? And I don't remember what the number of responses was, but there were plenty of people said yes to that question, right? So I think sometimes it's about making sure people know about the opportunities to serve when there's a vacancy on one of the boards. And you guys have several different committees or commissions that people could serve on, or even if it's a temporary thing, right? If you appoint a subcommittee to look at some specific issue for city council, there's nothing wrong with describing a couple of interested residents. If you have any volunteers, to just have them attend a few meetings, give some input, can be a really helpful way to engage the community. So, that's what we have in here. We're certainly open to additional suggestions and where Cedar Springs would be. Like I said, this is kind of the last piece of the plan, so we'll need to bring the entire thing together for you for the next meeting. And yeah, we can.
What? No, just
So-
one more review.
Yeah, so we'll have a comprehensive review, and then we had talked about having the draft ready for presentation at the that citywide,
Community night.
community night.
Okay.
After that, there's actually a fairly lengthy adoption process that we have to go through by statute. It's gonna take a bunch of months. But I'm thinking at least one, possibly two meetings for the planning commission so you can read it, study it, make sure that you're comfortable with everything that's presented in there and that it reads the way you want and that it addresses the issues that you want it to address. So we're certainly getting, close here to having a complete draft cover, I think will help you in your minds around its content for sure. So that'll be our goal for the next meeting.
I guess I'll start. I'm not comfortable changing our single family residential into a low density residential. And I would really prefer personally, I don't know about the rest of you, and city council, we worked very hard on our zoning. And I think we really created a zoning map that is good for our city. And I really don't think it's time to make changes to what we created. I know the road deal is gonna have to change it, and it's been, the east to west and the north and south roads, 16 Mile and Cherry Street. That's gonna have to change. But as far as single family and the R2 and the R3 and R4, and our central business districts. I think they're where they're at for now, and I know we have to do another master plan in, what, 5 years? And maybe at that time, it'll be ready for some changes.
With the master plan every 5 years, you don't have to actually make any changes to it unless you feel it's appropriate. So whenever this process is done, so you will look at it again in 2030. You can, and if you want, decide to make changes at that time, or you can decide to leave it alone. That'll be up to you. Every 5 years thereafter, it's kind of the same process.
Right.
I guess I would point out that we're not necessarily proposing to make this year's zoning map.
Mhm.
This is more just looking at sort of future land uses. So the low density residential designation here coincides and is basically directly reflects the R1 single family district.
Mhm.
This isn't necessarily proposing to change the zoning at all in that category. Now, if you I mentioned earlier that we were talking about, looking at, allowing for sort of incremental growth in your neighborhoods. If that's something that you would want to modify or take out, that's certainly fine, but we're not changing the zoning map necessarily as part of this process. So I just want to be clear about that.
So folks know we're not changing their zoning into a,
Their zoning will not change at all.
thank you.
Questions for Mr. Moore? Looks good. I appreciate all the work you've done on it. Looks
Hmm?
For complete formatted cover to cover draft for the next meeting, so you'll have a good amount of reading to do. Yay.
Are we going to keep Jerry Gross in the antique fire truck and the new?
I mean, if you would like to, yeah, we'll put whatever pictures you want in there.
There's a picture of Jerry Gross driving the antique fire truck when he was fire chief. It's quite a nice picture if we can keep it in there. Iconic.
So I'm glad you mentioned that. So what would be helpful if anyone has, pictures from around the city that might be good to include in the plan. So of at the park, at any community events, just of the downtown, of stuff going on, of people just out enjoying the city, any of that thing, if you have pictures of those that you can share, would love to put those in the plan. I don't want to use stock imagery if we don't have to. I'd like to have, pictures that you all have taken of the community. So if you have some on your phone or from wherever on your computer, definitely provide them to me, and I'd love to include them.
And make it unique to us and
Yeah.
not stock.
Whoever has anything, please send it my way, and we'll get it included.
Okay, what's our timeline on that?
Within a couple of weeks would be great, if that's possible. The sooner the better, but I would say within 2 weeks would be.
Okay. Thank you.
all right. Shall we look at B, which is the joint meeting with the Solon Township Planning Commission for the 425 agreement, which we did this last year and we're doing it again this year. March 25th at the Sheriff's Department. Any other we need to talk about or just show up?
Want us to have on the agenda for sure that we cover?
Can I map?
No, I think we had a good conversation
Yeah.
last year, so.
Okay.
Just making sure that we're going in the same direction, have conversations about where we meet up. I'm happy. Yeah.
Give us an update on working with MDOT on the Aldi entrance, whatever. Maybe they have some information.
Facebook about that on Cedar Springs Informed, and I'm like, yeah, out of our hands, guys, there.
People. Okay, so.
Smash more cars there, I guess.
That's bad spot. All right, open discussion for issues not on the agenda. We have our correspondence, our 2025 calendar. Anything there, Miss Becca, or just Staff comment.
things that I've been working on. Working with the resident that owns 4 lots on Maple Street. He's waiting for Eagle to come and do a wetland delineation identification for him. If he can get 2 lots that are pretty high and dry, he would like to propose a house to go there, but ball's in his court. I'm just kind of, that's one thing. 312 Ash Street, working with a contractor there. Submitted, I don't know, 3 or 4 site plans, I think, by now. He's having a hard time meeting the setbacks, but I think the last one he submitted, he's good. So he just needs to submit all the other pieces, driveway permit, zoning permit, so we can keep the ball moving for him. So we're working on that one.
Development by the well house, the new well house. Okay.
Speaking of the new well, the new well went online today, so you might see some brown water for maybe 7 to 10 days until the flow gets settled, you know, with adding the new well and the demand. Water's gonna be going back and forth in some pipes that have not gone that direction, so keep an eye out for that. Working with the new contractor for a proposed city hall, new floor plan. Hoping to bring that to you if we can finalize it internally, share that with you guys at your April meeting, and then share it with city council in April as well. We finally got approval from DNR on the trust fund grant for the Heart of Cedar Springs. So our engineers are preparing the bidding documents to bid that project out.
Oh, boy.
Short-term rentals. Andy and I had a Zoom meeting today with the city attorney. City attorney has finally had a chance to review that. No major changes, but I think there's some changes that he is recommending. So we want to bring that back to you in April as well. And then if you approve it, then we can move on to city council. So April's going to be a lot of information.
Did, the well that's over on Solon, did that go completely offline? So we're not using that at all? Or?
The tower?
I
We're
thought that was, well, I thought that was the well that we had.
Mm-mm. We capped well number 3. So we've only been functioning on 2 wells. 3 as of today, back in service.
I probably got it in my head wrong, but thank you. We're back with 3 wells. Yay.
Yep.
City clerk. Okay. Planning commission members, anything?
Well, we have some items that prep us for that the March 25th meeting, where we have like 425 agreement to review again and an agenda to look at prior to. Okay, I forgot to ask that. I just want to make sure. Yep.
A week ahead of time.
Okay. Anything else? All right, city council, I don't think we have one. Report of the planning consultant. Then at 7:54, I will adjourn us for the evening. Thank y'all very much.